Hey there, and welcome back to our new Rimworld series. If you want to see what kind of situation we have thrown ourselves into, then go check out episode 0, where I go over things like storyteller settings, where we chose to land, our starting colonists, what mods we're using, and other things like that. Right now though, we'll be jumping straight into things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have our colonists enter caravan mode. To do this, all we have to do is go to the world, create a caravan, select our colonists, select a random location, and then send them there. Although we don't actually have any intents of sending them there. So what this does is now we can have our colonists pick up multiple items. They have a limited amount of mass that they can carry, but it's still incredibly useful. For example, we can have Dawn pick up some of these packaged survival meals. This means that we can haul multiple stacks of items at the same time, and this will be very useful for our starting situation where we don't want to spend too much time hauling all of the items. So our first priority is to construct a small structure with a campfire inside of it so that our colonists don't freeze to death immediately. This very first structure is going to be an 8x5 building. Now this is only a very temporary structure, as it can't really hold much inside of it. But if we don't build something so small, then we won't build it fast enough and we'll freeze to death. In an effort to not waste the materials though, we will make this first building slightly lopsided. The first room I plan to make is an 11x8 research lab, and so if we make one of the walls 8 long to start with, then we only have to deconstruct one of the walls in order to expand the room. Because of her construction skill of 0, we don't want Dawn to build the walls or anything else that has a chance of failed construction, because that would waste precious time and materials. Despite her construction level of 0 though, she can still build roofs without failing. So we'll have her start working on the roof while Dusk builds everything else. Alright, we can see here that we're only at 11% on our hypothermia so far, so we're off to a pretty solid start here. Now that our first structure is built and we have a safe place to stay warm in, we will begin gathering all of our items. The first thing we want to collect is all of our food. In addition to the meals that came with us in our transport pods, a few also were randomly scattered around the map. While taking a look at the map to see where we need to go to pick up all of them, it would appear that one of the snow hares is already nibbling on one. So we'll send Dusk out around the map to load up all of the meals into his inventory and bring them back to the base before the snow hares get to more of them. We will leave some of the meals just outside of our base though, so that way we can lure in the snow hares to us and they won't leave the map. As far as our animal goes, it's a cat, and unfortunately for the cat, it can't haul things, which means we probably won't be keeping it around for too long. For now though, we'll tell it to go inside to the warm room. I don't want it to die immediately, because a bonded animal dying this early on could have devastating effects for Dusk's mood. Now we can have Dawn make use of her time by telling her to load up all of the equipment, and then we'll have her bring it inside where it won't deteriorate. Now we can drop everything just like this, and well bam, that's hauling done really fast. We're going to continue to have Dawn grab all of the things that can deteriorate outside, and drop them off in the base. Now that Dawn has finished hauling back all of the perishables, she can start hauling back the raw resources. We won't put these all in our base, it would just get too cluttered, but we can leave them outside so it's closer for us to get to them when we need them. It doesn't take long then until Randy random strikes with his first event, and that means that our cat already has the flu. That's lovely. The flu would probably kill the cat before we're able to deal with the mood loss, so for the time being we'll tend to its sickness. Dusk is getting serious frostbite now, so it's time for him to go inside and get warmed up. And we'll have Dawn warm up as well. Now that we've completed most of the hauling, I don't think we need to be in caravan mode anymore, so we'll go ahead and cancel forming the caravan. While Dusk is in our little shelter, he can equip the rifle, the helmet, and the flak vest that we crashed down with. I go over the reasons why in episode 0, but suffice it to say that Dusk will be our main fighter throughout this playthrough. Okay, now that our colonists have warmed up a bit, we'll have Dusk build our first research bench, and we'll have Dawn continue hauling some steel. Once Dusk is finished building the research bench, we'll have him get to researching complex furniture right away. As soon as possible, we want to be able to build things like beds, tables, and chairs, so that way our colonists' moods will be higher. Okay, that was a lot faster than expected. Dusk and Dawn have now become new lovers, and that means they will gain a +10 mood boost for being in a relationship with each other. Because of this, we'll set down a double sleeping spot right away to get rid of the -4 mood loss of wanting to share a bed with each other. And in addition to that, we won't need to bother building 2 single beds, but instead we just be able to build 1 double bed when we have complex furniture done being researched. A bit later then, Dusk and Dawn can eat their first meal out on the sea ice. After eating their meals, Dusk can get back to researching and Dawn can get back to hauling. We've finished hauling most of the items that are already close to the base, so now we're starting to go out and grab the steel that is a bit farther away. After a couple of hours of researching and hauling, our colonists can now head off to bed. In addition to the +10 mood boost that we gain from having Dawn and Dusk be in a relationship with each other, they will also occasionally gain an additional mood boost from nightly activities. In total, that puts both of them up to a +18 mood boost, which is a pretty massive mood boost for the early game. Once Dusk wakes up, he can get back to the research table. Before he can get much research done though, it's time for the onslaught of snow hares. So all 4 snow hares will come to the packaged survival meals that we left out as bait, and that will give us a chance to hunt them for some food. To do this, we'll have Dusk equip the knife instead of the rifle. We will mostly be using melee here, as our shooting skill is too low to reliably kill them before they eat the meals. In addition to that, there won't be very many chances in the game where we can safely train our melee skill, so the more melee skill that we can get trained up now, the better off we'll be later on. The first snow hare seems to be putting up a fight and bites Dawn in her left shoulder for 3.5 damage. This isn't anything to be worried about though. As some of the snow hares have yet to close the distance, we'll have Dawn take a couple of pot shots at them. None of her shots find their mark though, so we'll go back to meleeing. Dusk downs another one of the snow hares, and that means there's only 3 more to go. Another hit and another snow hare downed, 2 more to go. The last snow hare picks a different angle of approach, but is still no match for our colonists. We'll finish off the snow hare that's still alive, and have Dawn tend to her injury. As Dawn lays down to heal up, Dusk can clean up the mess we made outside. There's no need for us to have a bunch of blood laying around. After cleaning up the snow hare blood, Dusk can get back to researching. We can see here that Valentina is gaining an immunity to the flu at a pretty nice pace. However, we're not going to be too concerned about it anymore. Dusk can now afford to have the mood loss of his bonded animal dying. Nonetheless, it is still more useful to us alive than dead at the moment, so we'll keep it that way for now. A few hours later then, we get the good news that Dawn is fully healed, and she can pick up where Dusk left off at the research bench. A bit later, when Dusk wakes up, he can start hauling back a bit more steel. Once he's back at the base, he'll take over at the research bench and Dawn can get some rest. We can see here that it's been 2 days since we crashed down on the ice sheet, and that means that it's now possible for us to be raided. Because of that possibility, we'll have Dusk take the time to build a steel spike trap. This should be sufficient to stop any kind of raid that Randy Random is able to throw at us so far. After building the trap, Dusk can get back to researching. Once Dawn is awake, she can continue hauling back some more steel. Our cat's disease needs to be tended again, so we'll have Dusk do it, so that way he can gain some medical experience. After Dusk tends to the cat, he can eat a meal, and then head off to bed to get some rest. And Dawn can pick up where Dusk left off at the research table. We can see here that Valentina has now developed malnutrition, and as sad as it is, it will probably stay that way until it dies. Our colonists' moods will already be pretty high as it is, and the only thing left for it to be able to do would be to fight an enemy raider. However, cats are not exactly the greatest at doing that. So, with it adding no value to the colony, it wouldn't be worth the food that it takes to keep it around. When Dusk wakes up, he can get back to hauling steel. He's got quite a ways to walk in order to get to the steel, as we have already gathered a lot of the resources that we crashed down with. After returning to the base and getting a few hours of recreation in, Dusk will relieve Dawn of her duties at the research bench. Dusk has just refueled the campfire for the first time using 15 pieces of wood, and until we can finish researching electricity to build heaters, we will have to continue to spend 10 units of wood a day keeping the campfire going. Day 3 has come upon us now, and that means that it's time to rename our faction and our settlement. Our faction will be called Frozen, and our settlement will be called Frozen Sea Ice. After naming our faction, Randy Random gifts us with a Psychic Soothe, affecting all of our female colonists, and that means that Dawn will have a plus 16 mood boost for the next few days. After waking up and eating a meal, Dawn will get back to hauling some steel. A few hours later, and after a good chunk of hauling, research, and sleeping, we can see here that Valentina's malnutrition is up to 61%. When Dawn wakes up, she can finish off the complex furniture research. Our next research project is going to be electricity. Electricity is the gateway to all of the other important technologies, but most importantly for us right now, it is required in order to build heaters. It's not too long then until we receive the somewhat irrelevant piece of news that Valentina has developed an immunity to the flu. Still though, our plans for the cat remain the same. With only 13 steel left over there, we're going to go ahead and put Dawn into caravan mode really quick. She should be able to pick up the extra 13 steel this way, and then she won't have to make another trip over there. Then when she gets back, we'll cancel forming the caravan. While Dusk is continuing to research then, Randy gifts us with a cargo pods. Let's see what's inside of them. Okay, 201 units of rhinoceros meat. We'll definitely haul that back pretty soon. But right now it's more important to have somebody at the research bench at all times, so we can get heaters as soon as possible. Valentina's malnutrition has just become extreme, and fairly shortly, this will mean the end of our pet. After fully resting up, Dusk will go back to the research bench, and we'll have Dawn re-enter caravan mode in order to pick up all the rhinoceros meat that crashed down with the cargo pods. While she's over here, we'll also have her pick up a few of the steel slag chunks. We don't have a use for them at the moment, but eventually they will be our main source of steel, so we might as well bring them back to the base while we have the time. Once Dawn is back at the base, we will cancel forming the caravan, have her dump her inventory, and have her start making some simple meals with the rhinoceros meat that she just collected. Another set of cargo pods crashes down on the frozen sea ice. This time it is 8 cargo pods containing a total of 128 units of muffalo wool. This muffalo wool could be a very key component to making warm clothing very early on, so we'll definitely want to bring it back to the base fairly shortly. For now though, Dusk can continue researching, and Dawn can continue cooking. Meanwhile, Valentina has a malnutrition of 96%, which means that we will have one less animal and one more corpse in a short amount of time. And with this death message, the sea ice has now claimed its first victim. This has given Dusk a -8 mood penalty for the next 20 days, but by being in a relationship with Dawn, this mood loss is easily offset. After Dawn finishes cooking the simple meals, she can be the taste tester of the first one, and Dusk will refuel the campfire. After that, Dusk will get back to researching, and Dawn will re-enter caravan mode to haul all of the muffalo wool. Just like with the rhinoceros meat, while she's grabbing the muffalo wool, we'll also have her bring back all of the steel slag chunks. And once she's back at the base, she can drop off everything. We're leaving the muffalo wool outside for the time being. Even though it will deteriorate a little bit, we won't let it deteriorate all the way, but while it does lose some of its hit points, it decreases the wealth on our map, and it doesn't decrease in its ability to be used. Then we can have Dawn go back to hauling the steel that's farther away. As Dusk continues to work at the research bench, we get the notification that the psychic soothe has ended as Dawn is coming back to the base with her hypothermia, and we can cancel forming the caravan and have Dawn get some rest. When Dusk wakes up, he'll go back to the research table. But before he'll get too much research in, it's time for us to expand our first room. We're going to use steel for this expansion. Wood will be a lot more scarce than steel going forward, and we don't know how long we're going to continue needing the wood to fuel our campfire for. So, with that in mind, we'll have Dusk get started on expanding the shelter. A little while later then, he's just putting on the finishing touches, and all we have to do is make sure he doesn't trap himself inside. Although, I suppose it would have made his next job a bit easier, which is to deconstruct part of the wall in between the two separated rooms. We'll still leave most of the wall up for the time being, just in case we need to separate the rooms again in order to trap a lot of heat in one of the rooms. Now that we've finished complex furniture and we're having Dusk build things, let's go ahead and build our first bed. A steel double bed will offer both of our colonists not only a more comfortable sleep, but also a faster one, which means that we'll have to spend less time sleeping and we'll have more time available for things like research. And with that bed completed, we'll get rid of the sleeping spot. Now that he's done building the new bed, we'll have him rearrange some of the items around the base. Overall, this isn't a super necessary thing, but it just gets some of the items more out of the way in case we need to bring in some other items very quickly. While Dusk is hauling some items around the base, we get the notification that some chunks of spacecraft has crashed nearby. And while we haven't yet had a chance to deconstruct the ship chunks that came down with our ship, we will definitely make use of the resources we can get from those eventually. Now that Dusk has finished hauling some things around the base, he can begin constructing our second research bench. While we could have one of our colonists go around and haul the remaining things, it would be a better use of their time at the moment to be researching. Once Dusk has finished building the research bench, we will move around the newly created research bench as well as the bed, so that whenever somebody is working at the research bench, they are working at full speed because the area is still lit up from the campfire. While they are researching, a wanderer joins our base, and if we take a look at their stats, we see that although they have a couple of interesting traits like the tough and the cannibal trait, being incapable of skilled labor and hauling, and also having a couple of permanent wounds on their arms, means that we don't really want to keep them around for long. Nonetheless, this event is not entirely useless, because with her she has a jacket, a toque, and a few meals that we can use. So what we'll do is we'll draft her, have her head to the front of the base, have her drop everything, and then we'll have her stand outside of the base to freeze. While she's in the process of freezing, we can have Dusk equip the jacket that she had, and Dawn can equip the toque that she had. Now we want to calculate our risks carefully here. We don't want to have Raccoon die as a colonist. We want to banish her before that happens, but we don't want her to have a mental break risk either, because that can mean bad things happening. So what we want to do is we want to wait for hypothermia to be increasing enough to where she won't make it off of the map, but we want to keep her around long enough so that her mood doesn't drop too low so that she starts destroying things. And with her hypothermia becoming serious, and her becoming a major break risk, I think it's time we'll let her go. Let's see if she makes it off of the frozen sea ice. She's starting to get frostbite now, and considering how far she has to go still, her chances are not looking too good. And there she goes. Her hypothermia has become extreme, and where she's laying down right now, she will stay there for quite some time.
After wearing some of the clothing that Raccoon was kind enough to donate to our colony, Dusk's and Dawn's temperature resistances have improved to 17 and 28 degrees. As Dusk takes a recreation break from researching, Dawn can haul some of Raccoon's items inside so that they don't deteriorate and are worth more from traders. After that, she can get back to researching. As our colonists continue to research electricity, I think it's time we slowly wrap up this episode. We are off to a good start. Usually it takes more than 5 days for the colonists to become lovers, and that allowed us to save more food by getting rid of our pet earlier. With both colonists researching at the same time, it won't be long until electricity finishes, and we will no longer need to worry about the cold. Until then, I hope you enjoyed, and if you did and would like to support the channel, then you could subscribe to stay tuned for more videos. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and remember to look forward to the new dawn.